For decades, you've been told that high cholesterol causes heart attacks, that if your LDL is elevated, you must take a statin. That cholesterol is the enemy. But what if everything you've been told about cholesterol is backwards? What if the number your doctor focuses on actually tells you almost nothing about your real cardiovascular risk? Welcome to one of the most misunderstood topics in modern medicine. The cholesterol story you've heard is incomplete. It's built on a half-truth that has led millions of people into unnecessary medication, fear, and dietary restrictions that might not be protecting their hearts at all. Your body produces cholesterol for essential functions. Every single cell membrane depends on cholesterol for structure and integrity. Your brain, which is about 60% fat by weight, contains massive amounts of cholesterol because cholesterol enables neuron communication. Your steroid hormones, cortisol, estrogen, testosterone, all of these require cholesterol as their molecular foundation. Cholesterol is not optional. It's not inherently dangerous. It's fundamental to life. Yet we've been trained to fear cholesterol as if it were poison. This perspective fundamentally misunderstands what cholesterol is and what it does. Let me explain what's actually happening in your body. When researchers study cholesterol, they measure different types. LDL, the so-called bad cholesterol. HDL, the good cholesterol. Triglycerides, the most abundant fat in your bloodstream. Total cholesterol. These measurements aren't pure cholesterol at all. They're protein packages called lipoproteins that carry cholesterol through your bloodstream. Low-density lipoprotein particles carry cholesterol from your liver to your tissues. High-density lipoprotein particles carry cholesterol from your tissues back to your liver for recycling. Both serve essential functions. Neither is inherently good or bad. The problem isn't cholesterol itself. The problem is what happens to cholesterol when it becomes damaged, when it becomes oxidized, when inflammation is present. Think about it this way. If cholesterol were truly the enemy, why would your body manufacture about 1 gram of cholesterol per day? Why would dietary cholesterol intake have only minimal impact on your blood cholesterol levels? Because your liver adjusts its production based on your intake? Why would studies find that people with very low cholesterol have higher mortality rates? The answer is that cholesterol is essential. The real enemy is oxidized cholesterol and inflammation. Oxidized LDL is damaged LDL. It's LDL that has been chemically altered by free radicals. This oxidized LDL triggers an inflammatory response. White blood cells rush in to clean up the damaged cholesterol, creating plaques in your artery walls. This is what actually causes cardiovascular disease, not cholesterol itself. Oxidized cholesterol within an inflammatory environment. HDL helps remove cholesterol from arterial plaques and transport it back to the liver. This is why HDL has been called the good cholesterol. But even high-density lipoprotein is more complex than simple labels suggest. High-density lipoprotein function matters more than high-density lipoprotein quantity. The ability of your HDL to perform its cholesterol removal and anti-inflammatory functions is what really counts. Triglycerides are the most abundant fat in your bloodstream. They carry dietary fats and serve as energy storage. When triglyceride levels are high, they're often accompanied by decreased HDL levels. This combination creates a much more accurate picture of cardiovascular risk than LDL alone. Research has shown that the ratio of triglycerides to HDL is actually a better predictor of heart disease risk than LDL cholesterol. When this ratio is unfavorable, meaning high triglycerides relative to HDL, it indicates metabolic dysfunction. It suggests insulin resistance, inflammation, and an increased risk of cardiovascular events. Why does this matter? Because your doctor might be measuring LDL and telling you that your cardiovascular risk is low, when in reality your triglyceride-to-HDL ratio tells a different story. You might have an LDL that looks fine on paper, but a triglyceride level that's elevated and an HDL level that's depressed. This combination signals metabolic syndrome, insulin resistance, and increased cardiovascular risk even when LDL appears normal. Conversely, you might have an LDL that's considered high by conventional standards. But with optimal triglycerides and high HDL, your actual cardiovascular risk might be quite low. Here's something else that might surprise you. The way your body processes cholesterol changes over time and in response to different circumstances. Stress increases cholesterol production. Chronic stress creates biochemical changes that raise cholesterol levels temporarily, not because cholesterol is dangerous, but because your body needs extra cholesterol during stress responses. Cortisol, your primary stress hormone, requires cholesterol for production. Your body increases cholesterol availability to support this critical function. This is why stress management is so crucial for cardiovascular health, not just because stress raises blood pressure, but because it alters cholesterol metabolism in ways that increase inflammation and oxidative stress. Additionally, cholesterol levels naturally fluctuate throughout the day and in response to meals. Postprandial, meaning after a meal, triglyceride levels rise significantly. This is normal. Your body is processing and storing dietary fats. But when triglyceride levels remain elevated for extended periods, or when your fasting triglycerides are high, it indicates metabolic dysfunction. The postprandial period, the hours after eating, reveals crucial information about how your body processes fats and carbohydrates. When your triglyceride response to food is excessive or prolonged, it suggests insulin resistance, inflammation, and increased cardiovascular risk. Sleep also dramatically affects cholesterol metabolism. When you're sleep deprived, your body's ability to process fats and sugars becomes compromised. High-density lipoprotein levels decrease. Triglyceride levels increase. Insulin sensitivity drops. Your body becomes more inflammatory. Studies have shown that even a single night of poor sleep can alter lipid profiles. Chronic sleep deprivation creates metabolic dysfunction that directly impacts your triglyceride-to-HDL ratio. This is why optimizing sleep is a powerful intervention for improving cardiovascular health markers beyond just feeling rested. Your gut microbiome also plays a role in cholesterol metabolism that's rarely discussed. Certain beneficial bacteria in your gut can metabolize cholesterol and influence how your body processes it. These bacteria can produce compounds that affect cholesterol synthesis and absorption. When your gut microbiome is healthy and diverse, it supports optimal cholesterol metabolism. When it's disrupted by poor diet, antibiotics, or inflammation, cholesterol processing becomes less efficient, contributing to unfavorable lipid profiles. The conventional cholesterol narrative focuses almost exclusively on LDL reduction through statin medications. Statins work by blocking an enzyme that your body uses to manufacture cholesterol. This can lower LDL numbers significantly, but studies on statin benefits are more nuanced than often presented. Statins show their clearest benefits in people who have already experienced a cardiovascular event. For those with established heart disease, statins reduce the risk of subsequent events. But for people without established cardiovascular disease, the benefits are smaller and the absolute risk reduction is modest. Additionally, statins have side effects: muscle pain, cognitive issues, increased diabetes risk, and nutrient deficiencies are all documented. The statin research reveals something crucial. Much of the cardiovascular benefit attributed to LDL reduction might actually come from inflammation reduction. Statins have anti-inflammatory properties independent of their cholesterol-lowering effects. This suggests that inflammation, not cholesterol itself, might be the primary driver of cardiovascular risk. Cardiovascular disease doesn't have a single cause. It's multifactorial. Focusing exclusively on LDL misses crucial risk factors and creates a false sense of protection when LDL is controlled, even if other risk factors remain problematic. Let me explain what actually predicts cardiovascular risk better than low-density lipoprotein cholesterol. The triglyceride-to-HDL ratio is one of the strongest predictors. When triglycerides are high and HDL is low, it indicates metabolic dysfunction. This pattern is associated with insulin resistance, inflammation, small dense LDL particles, and increased cardiovascular risk. An optimal ratio is less than 2:1. So if your HDL is 50 milligrams per deciliter, your triglycerides should be under 100. Ratios above 3:1 or 4:1 indicate significantly increased risk. The size and density of LDL particles matter enormously. Large, buoyant LDL particles are less likely to penetrate artery walls and cause plaques. Small, dense LDL particles are more easily oxidized, more inflammatory, and more atherogenic. Your triglyceride and HDL levels often predict which type of LDL particles you have. High triglycerides and low HDL are associated with small, dense LDL particles, which are the dangerous ones. Oxidized LDL is far more predictive of cardiovascular risk than total LDL. When LDL becomes oxidized, it triggers inflammation and plaque formation. But routine cholesterol testing doesn't measure oxidized LDL. Some advanced lipid panels do, but most doctors order standard tests that don't include this crucial marker. Inflammatory markers provide enormous insight into cardiovascular risk. C-reactive protein, homocysteine, fibrinogen, and other inflammatory molecules often predict cardiovascular events better than cholesterol levels. Yet these aren't routinely measured in standard cholesterol screenings. Insulin resistance is a massive cardiovascular risk factor that's completely invisible on a standard cholesterol panel. When cells become resistant to insulin, blood sugar levels rise, inflammation increases, triglyceride production accelerates, HDL decreases, and cardiovascular risk skyrockets. Metabolic syndrome, which includes insulin resistance, is one of the strongest predictors of heart disease, yet it isn't revealed by cholesterol numbers alone. Your fasting insulin, fasting glucose, hemoglobin A1C, and the triglyceride-to-HDL ratio together provide a much clearer picture of cardiovascular risk than low-density lipoprotein cholesterol alone. Understanding these metabolic connections reveals why lifestyle interventions are so powerful. When you address insulin resistance through diet and exercise, your triglyceride-to-HDL ratio improves automatically. Triglycerides decrease because your body becomes more efficient at processing and storing fats. HDL increases because improved metabolic function enhances HDL production and turnover. This improvement in the ratio reflects actual cardiovascular protection, not just number manipulation through medication. The timing and composition of your meals also profoundly impacts these ratios. When you consume large amounts of refined carbohydrates, especially without adequate protein, fat, or fiber to slow absorption, your blood sugar spikes rapidly. Your pancreas releases massive amounts of insulin to manage this glucose surge. Insulin promotes fat storage, particularly triglyceride formation. It also suppresses HDL production and reduces HDL stability. This creates the exact metabolic pattern associated with increased cardiovascular risk. Conversely, when you balance meals with protein, healthy fats, and fiber-rich carbohydrates, your blood sugar rises more gradually, insulin release is moderate, and your lipid metabolism remains more favorable. The mitochondrial health connection is crucial, but rarely mentioned. Your mitochondria are the energy-producing organelles in your cells. They're responsible for burning fats and generating cellular energy. When mitochondria are functioning optimally, they efficiently metabolize triglycerides and support healthy lipid profiles. When they're damaged by oxidative stress, inflammation, or nutrient deficiencies, fat metabolism becomes inefficient. Triglycerides accumulate. HDL production decreases. Your energy levels drop. This mitochondrial dysfunction drives metabolic syndrome and unfavorable cholesterol ratios. Supporting mitochondrial health through regular exercise, Antioxidant-rich nutrition, adequate sleep, and stress reduction directly improves your triglyceride-to-HDL ratio. Genetics play a role, but lifestyle choices matter enormously regardless of genetic background. You might have genetic factors that tend to produce lower HDL or higher triglycerides, but lifestyle interventions can shift these markers significantly. The evidence is clear that lifestyle modifications can optimize cardiovascular health regardless of genetic factors. Exercise provides perhaps the most powerful cardiovascular protection precisely because it addresses multiple risk factors simultaneously. Regular physical activity improves insulin sensitivity, which lowers triglycerides. It increases HDL levels. It reduces inflammation. It strengthens your heart muscle. It improves endothelial function. It enhances antioxidant capacity. It supports mitochondrial health. It reduces stress. The cumulative benefit of exercise for cardiovascular health is enormous, far exceeding what any medication can achieve in isolation. Sleep, stress, and nutrition work synergistically with exercise to create comprehensive cardiovascular protection. When you optimize all these factors, your triglyceride-to-HDL ratio improves naturally. Your inflammation markers decrease. Your insulin sensitivity increases. Your endothelial function improves. These changes reflect actual cardiovascular health, not just favorable test results achieved through medication. So what should you actually do about cholesterol? First, stop thinking of cholesterol as inherently dangerous. Cholesterol is essential. Your body needs it. The problem is oxidized cholesterol in an inflammatory environment. Second, focus on reducing inflammation throughout your body. This means consuming anti-inflammatory foods, omega-3 fatty acids from fatty fish, nuts, and seeds, antioxidants from fruits and vegetables, fiber from whole plant foods. Avoid processed foods, refined carbohydrates, and excessive alcohol. Third, optimize your triglyceride-to-HDL ratio. This ratio reflects metabolic health. The best way to improve this ratio is by addressing insulin resistance. Reducing refined carbohydrate intake lowers triglycerides. Regular physical activity increases HDL. Adequate sleep reduces insulin resistance. Stress management reduces inflammation. These lifestyle interventions often improve the triglyceride-to-HDL ratio more effectively than medication alone. Fourth, if your doctor recommends statins, have an informed conversation about risks, benefits, and alternatives. Statins can be appropriate for certain people, especially those with established cardiovascular disease. Ask about your absolute risk, not just your relative risk. Ask about side effects and alternatives like lifestyle interventions. Fifth, consider advanced lipid testing if available. Some tests measure LDL particle size and density, oxidized LDL directly, or HDL function. These more sophisticated tests provide a clearer picture of cardiovascular risk than standard cholesterol panels. Sixth, support your endothelial function. Your endothelium is the single layer of cells that lines all your blood vessels. When endothelial cells become dysfunctional due to inflammation and oxidative stress, cardiovascular risk increases dramatically. Regular exercise dramatically improves endothelial function. Certain foods like dark chocolate, beets, and leafy greens support nitric oxide production. Magnesium and omega-3 fatty acids also support endothelial health. Seventh, understand that cardiovascular health is about far more than just cholesterol numbers. It's about the entire cardiovascular system functioning optimally. How efficiently your heart pumps blood, how flexible your blood vessels are, how well your body manages inflammation and oxidative stress. When you optimize your triglyceride-to-HDL ratio through lifestyle interventions, you're supporting multiple cardiovascular processes simultaneously. This comprehensive approach creates true cardiovascular health, not just favorable test results. Your cardiovascular health depends on far more than a single cholesterol number. The triglyceride-to-HDL ratio, inflammatory markers, insulin sensitivity, blood pressure, and lifestyle factors together paint a complete picture of cardiovascular risk. Reducing everything to LDL cholesterol ignores this complexity and misses crucial opportunities for prevention and optimization. Heart disease is complex. It has many causes, many contributors, many opportunities for intervention. The cholesterol story we've been told simplifies this complexity into a single number, an enemy to fight with medication. But reality is more nuanced. Cholesterol is essential. Oxidation and inflammation are the problems. Metabolic health matters more than cholesterol numbers in isolation. Focus on reducing inflammation. Focus on improving metabolic health. Focus on insulin sensitivity. Focus on optimizing your triglyceride to high-density lipoprotein ratio. Focus on lifestyle factors that support cardiovascular health holistically. These approaches address root causes, not just symptoms. They create health, not just lower numbers. Your cardiovascular system is an elaborate network of vessels, organs, and biochemical processes. It responds to diet, exercise, sleep, stress, inflammation, and countless other factors. No single number captures its entire state. No single medication optimizes its complete function. Holistic approaches that reduce inflammation, support metabolic health, and create conditions for cardiovascular resilience offer the most complete protection. The cholesterol lie isn't that cholesterol is dangerous. The lie is that cholesterol in isolation determines cardiovascular risk. The truth is that cardiovascular disease is multifactorial, that inflammation and metabolic dysfunction are primary drivers, that the triglyceride-to-HDL ratio tells a clearer story than LDL alone, and that optimizing heart health requires a comprehensive approach that addresses root causes, not just numbers. Your heart deserves complete support, not just a single number, not just a single medication. Complete support that addresses all the factors that influence cardiovascular health. That's the approach that actually protects your heart for the long term. Your cardiovascular system is remarkable. It's designed to support life for decades when properly cared for. This care extends far beyond cholesterol management. It requires attention to nutrition quality, physical activity patterns, sleep hygiene, stress management, inflammatory status, insulin sensitivity, mitochondrial function, endothelial health, and the countless other factors that influence cardiovascular function. The goal isn't to eliminate cholesterol from your body. The goal is to create an internal environment where cholesterol performs its essential functions without contributing to disease. This environment is characterized by low inflammation, efficient metabolism, robust antioxidant capacity, optimal insulin sensitivity, healthy endothelial function, and comprehensive lifestyle support. When you achieve this environment, your triglyceride-to-HDL ratio reflects genuine cardiovascular health, not just favorable numbers achieved through medication. The truth about cholesterol is more complex and more hopeful than the story you've been told. Cholesterol isn't the enemy. It's essential to life. Support your cardiovascular system holistically through evidence-based, comprehensive optimization. That's the approach that truly protects your long-term cardiovascular health. Important medical disclaimer. The information provided in this content is for educational and informational purposes only. It is based on scientific research, expert knowledge, and holistic health principles gathered from various sources. However, this information does not constitute medical advice, diagnosis, or treatment, cannot replace professional medical consultation, should not be used as a substitute for qualified health care, may not be appropriate for your specific health condition. Critical requirements. Always consult with qualified healthcare professionals before making health decisions. Seek immediate medical attention for urgent health concerns. Discuss any health changes or new symptoms with your doctor. Ensure any supplements or lifestyle changes are appropriate for your individual situation. Consider your personal medical history, current medications, and health status. Limitation of liability. The authors and publishers of this content assume no responsibility for any adverse effects or consequences resulting from the use of any information, suggestions, or procedures described herein. Individual results may vary, and health outcomes depend on numerous factors beyond the scope of this content. Professional medical care. This content encourages and emphasizes the importance of maintaining regular contact with qualified healthcare providers for proper medical care, diagnosis, and treatment of any health conditions.